Check 1, 2.
Just fucking make sure I hit record.
That's going to be important for an audio format.
100%. I mean, the cameras are recording.
Sure, but it's not so
audio as
visually
well.
appealing if you've just got no sound.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Welcome to another podcast. We've got a fellow photographer, Brett Ferguson. Hello, Brett.
Hi, Andrew. How you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good. Sunday, I'm feeling good.
It's so great to meet you.
Yeah, you too. After following you for a very long time, actually. So,
hopefully not too long.
I can't remember. You were one of the earlier ones. I'm not sure when I first saw your work. It's like one of these things, and you meet people and you go, "Oh, I think I found your work through such and such."
Yeah.
And it's this rabbit warren that we take. So
Yeah. How long have you been doing photography?
a long time. I picked up a camera when I was probably about 12.
Yeah.
Actually, one of these ones here. Like my grandmother gave me her box brownie, and I was taking photos with the box brownie and of course that expensive film, especially when I was like 12, I didn't really have a lot of income then. Was quite difficult to get it exposed and and get it developed. So then I transitioned to I bought my first film SLR when I was about 15, and then played with that. And then, I mean, I was very much about capturing things versus any portraiture work or anything like that. Yeah. And then when I got my first digital camera in about 2006, and that's when I really started ramping it up. And then in 2014, I really got into the portraiture because I really wanted a challenge. And so I chose a genre to get into, and then portraiture was sort of my thing. So
right. Why did you decide to challenge yourself?
Look, I think I was good with. Well, I enjoyed talking to people, interacting with people. Yeah. And portraiture is one of those things, but you do need to put yourself out there. There's a little bit of more about making someone feel comfortable, and also I guess feeling empathy for them in a difficult situation. Like if they're a bit uneasy, you've got a job to do to bring them back to ease. Correct. To get the best out of the shoot. So
it's this piece around if you're asking someone to like open up and show their vulnerability, you've got to like guide them through that and make them feel comfortable doing that, because that's how you ultimately like get that shot, right? What are some techniques that you use to kind of like help them along? Back
at the start, I was doing a specific style of portraiture, and particularly I started out with my kids because they're 24/7, so you can just grab one and put them into a shot. Yeah, and that was sort of my style for a bit. And people found my work probably through photographs of my kids. There's a lot of people who talk to me now say, "Oh, I remember this of your daughter," or "I remember this of your son." So there was a lot of those sorts of conversations. And what I would do with them is there's a very short window with kids that you can hold them for before they get angry.
Cranky,
So it was all about, but I wanted a specific emotion. So I would wait and I would talk to them about what emotion I was getting. And it's really hard for kids to understand, I want you to just empty your mind and just stare off into the distance and just stay calm. And of course, they do that for what they think is, 25 minutes, but it's actually about 3 seconds. And if you can get that one shot, your Cartier-Bresson talks about, that specific.
That is so true. Yeah. Like, they think it's 25 minutes, but it's only 3 seconds.
Exactly.
It's like, bro, just fucking relax, man.
Exactly. So, so I think from there, I've sort of learnt that technique to, and I deliberately now start out most of my shoots with a natural light shoot. Yeah. And because it's what people are probably, unless they're a seasoned model, they're most comfortable with the idea of a shot with natural light. So it's it's just in a window or something like that. Yeah. People feel less daunted by that. And once you start moving a light around, you go, sorry, that light's not quite right. I've got to move this. I've got to turn this down. And people like they almost think, is it me? But it's the photographer's job to get that light right. I mean, that's what we're there to do.
100%.
So I think for me, it's about making sure I get people in the zone early, and then they feel a bit more comfortable. And you can see from that early part of the shoot to an hour in, there's a huge change in their comfort level. And my job as a photographer, our job as photographers, is to probably shorten that period as much as possible to get the most productive time out of a shoot. Because sometimes it's only the last 20 minutes or something of my time that I will get the gold, and that's that's for me is my challenge, is how do I compress that?
Yeah, and I certainly find that when I get either clients or models coming back for a second or a third shoot, that time frame's reduced dramatically, and you just get like more gold shots more often.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and there's small techniques where you say, like yesterday, we were out outdoors, and the lighting was quite bright and the model was struggling with it a bit. And I said, look, let's do eyes closed, 1, 2, 3, open. I'll take one shot. And we just kept on repeating that process.
Yeah.
And then the shots we got was so much better.
Good idea.
No, it works really well.
I'm going to fucking use that one.
Use it, absolutely. So, for them, especially.
Holy shit, learning off Brett already. We're like 5 minutes and 36 seconds in.
That's my gold. So everything else from here is shit. And so from that, we got some great shots. And so we did the first half of the shoot actually with studio, because this was just for a corporate headshot she wanted.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, look. And she said, I'm not feeling it. I said, let's go out. We'll shoot out in the laneway. We shot it in the laneway, but it was as bright as hell out there. There was a lot of reflected light.
Yeah.
And we're shooting in the shade. I'm not stupid. But and she went through that technique, and the shots we've got, she was super happy with. And we only shot probably 8 frames, but she's got 3 out of the 8 that she was going ahead with. So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We jumped straight into. We just like kept going, but I want to come back to you using film cameras and like how difficult it is to like know what you're shooting until you develop.
Absolutely.
Film, how did you transition from like? How did you feel about transitioning between like film to digital? Like,
so I guess I had full. But part of the problem with film, or part of the problem for some people with film, is that it's up to the person developing the film as to how they interpret what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
So actually at high school, I was developing my own black and white film and then printing that work as well.
Yeah.
So for me, I can control, like from it, we talk about dodge and burn in Photoshop. This is where the original dodge and burn comes from, right? You could dodge the paper, that exposure to give you a certain tone within that part of the image.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of science and a lot of technique to that. And some of that I definitely do carry through to Photoshop. But so that was my learning there. As far as the exposure side, I would record. I'm a bit of I studied science. I'm a bit of a data person. I would actually record the exposure information on each shot that I took at the start.
Nerds.
Yeah, exactly. Nerd alert. So,
hey, I studied electrical engineering.
There you go. That's even nerdier than science.
Yeah, because that's the fucking hardest engineering you could possibly do.
Absolutely.
Because you can't see it.
Yeah.
And it kills people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
Well, those guys are the wealthiest people in the world, some of them. So
yeah. I can do the work. It just didn't interest me.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be passionate. You got to be passionate.
So you were recording like...
Yeah, I had like a notebook, frame these settings, frame that, these settings. And then so when I get the film back or the images back, I'd look at them and go, well, what didn't work about that? And then once I transitioned to digital, of course, it's all like you see it straight away. It's instant. So you just go, oh, okay. So what if I really push this?
So you were basically like recording stuff as if you were the own like microchip processor.
Exactly. Yeah. Trying to work out.
And trying to learn from what worked and what didn't work. And
yeah, because if you want to slightly overexpose something.
That's actually such a sign of a true artist,
Maybe I'm just so technically minded I'm just trying to find that link, because film's got this latitude, right? You can push film, you can adjust the exposure, but ultimately it's up to the development side of it as to whether they can actually go, well, that's overexposed, I'm going to dial that back. Yeah. But you may have intended it for it to be overexposed. So that's where I think digital gave me that ability to just push well beyond what film could ever do.
That's fucking amazing, man.
Yeah, it's good fun, eh? Digital, that's what I mean. And my learning curve once I did that was absolutely just exponential. I really took off then in terms of my creativity.
So did you study photography outside of high school?
No.
Or like this is just...
No, it's just always an interest, a passion.
Interest and a hobby.
We were talking about your dad earlier. My dad had a film camera that was just away in the cupboard. And I don't think I ever saw him take a photograph with it. It was an old film. He would most use it for film. And I was sort of fascinated by the technology, like how it looked and how it felt in your hand and what was going on. So you open the back and you look at how it rolls the film on and all those things.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know, that was early days. And then I sort of transitioned and thought, well, I had access to cameras, so I started to use them.
Yeah.
And then for me, it was then, okay, I really enjoy this, and then took it on. But at the start, it was very much about recording, and from then I moved to more creativity aspect of photography, which I enjoy now.
Now, you mentioned before that you're a real people person and you like talking to people, which I can tell now.
Yeah, I'm trying to hide it. I'm dialing it back a bit.
Definitely don't do that. I think people forget that in order to be a really good or great photographer, you do need quite a lot of people skills to be able to, one, communicate your vision, or how you like interact with people like on shoot and on set to kind of bring that vision to life, you know. And I think it's really underrated, like the whole communication piece.
Yeah.
You know, some I've come across some models or some clients who are like, oh, there was this photographer who just kind of like sat there in the corner and expected me to kind of like do everything, and like didn't really give me any guidance and stuff like that. And I'm like, shit, you need to start looking at my pose videos that I post online. Like, they are funny as fuck. But it's and I did a shoot a couple of days ago, and I was explaining, you know, that the videos of me posing or like, you know, doing techniques or whatever, they serve two purposes. The first purpose is, one, yes, I'm showing people how to do it. Two, I'm showing them that I can look like an idiot as well, so they don't feel like an idiot or feel awkward. And then three, just have some fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're not having fun, like why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You know?
No, absolutely. I caught myself yesterday. I was showing a model. I thought, oh, I'd like to explain this. I was showing her how to sit on this chair. And then I realized that she knows how to sit on a chair. She's been doing it since she was very young. So anyway, and then I realized I looked like an idiot. But it was funny because it broke the moment. Like, she was just like, because I said to her, you know how to sit on a chair. And then she sort of giggled, sat down, and she was, and I wasn't asking anything really hard or technical, but obviously
she wasn't upside down, was she?
No, she wasn't upside. Not at that point. No, she was just sitting. But so it was pretty comical.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit like, so I do photography as I guess a second full-time job. I have a 9-to-5
Me too.
job, and it's in business consulting. And one of the videos that I consistently like try to encourage people to watch is the video on how to tie your shoelace.
Right.
Because of this fact that you've been tying your shoelace your whole life. You should know how to tie your shoelace.
Yeah.
But this professor on this video, he talks about he went out and he bought some really expensive Italian shoes, and he wore them one day and the shoelace kept getting untied. So he took it back to the shop and he's like, there's something wrong with these shoes, like they keep untying. And the shop owner goes, well, you obviously don't know how to tie your shoes. And he got really upset, and he was like, oh, you know, I'm 64 years old, I think I know how to tie my shoes, And then the shop owner showed him the right way of doing it, and it's all to do with the rotation of when you do that bit. If you do it the wrong way, and when you tie the bow, it actually creates a very weak knot when your foot is in the shoe and pressing up against where the laces are.
Yeah.
And if that knot is weak, it will undo. Whereas the other way, when the pressure is on, it actually tightens it.
Wow.
And this professor's like, so there you go. Don't ever think that you know how to do something because that's just the way that you've been taught how to do it.
Yeah.
There could be a better way of doing things.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's also something that I really love about photography, is that, yes, it is all about perspective, but there's no bounds as to how far you can push your own creativity, right? Like, it's all just in your own head.
Yeah.
if you think you can't do it, then you definitely can't do it.
No, absolutely. And I think yesterday I was doubting myself in terms of I was using I wanted to light a very small space. I've got an ensuite on the side of the studio, and it was a really small space. I couldn't get a studio light in there. Or I could have had I completely stuffed around. Anyway, I just thought to myself, I wonder if a speed light will have enough power to do what I needed to do. It had way more than I expected because it's quite a small space, and I'd sort of forgotten. But I thought, I'll just try it and see. And the model was fine for me to allow that extra 30 seconds that it took me to set that up. But then I didn't then need to worry about how am I going to fit them in there and a studio light and everything else. So it actually just worked so well. But it was in my head, the shot was actually with natural light because there's a skylight, but it just didn't have enough light in there. So or the light wasn't in the right spot. More it was backlighting her versus front lighting. And it just shows you there's multiple ways to do the same thing. You shouldn't think it's just a single journey.
100%. And I think as photographers, I'm assuming you would be the same, but we forget about the equipment that we've bought over the years.
Absolutely.
And like how that would be beneficial to a particular situation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh shit, like I need to go back to that. Or wouldn't it be great if I like found something and then be like, oh wow, like, oh yeah, I remember that shot that I took with that bit of equipment, and then you do it again, and like how much better.
So true. No, I think and it's only when you get to that point where you go, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, and you start thinking about what are the alternative methods. But yeah, if I probably set my studio up properly, I'd probably take everything out of because everything sits in the camera bag. I'd probably better to have it like on a wall in front of me and go, is there anything here that I could use? Because you're right, there's so many things in that bag that you just forget are there. So,
what controversial question time? What do you shoot with?
So I shoot Canon because
Hey!
so I'm still using the 5D Mark IV right now.
That's a 5D Mark.
Yeah. I
it's a
spotted it.
workhorse.
Yeah, no, it has done me a great job. I think I've had it 6 years now. Whenever they first brought them out, I was pretty early, and when they first came out, I've been waiting for Canon to ever since they started talking about a high megapixel mirrorless. I've been waiting for that to come, and then obviously COVID hit and pretty much stopped any development. Yeah. So I'm waiting to see. Supposedly, there's an R5 Mark II coming this year, and if that comes, that's the first thing. I'll be the first customer. So,
well, that's a R5.
Yep.
And with the current firmware upgrade, it does allow for the sensor movement.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So it can take like very high megapixel.
Yeah.
And that's so a photographer that I follow in Canada, like I think probably at the start of last year, he was like, hey, just, want to leak something out a little bit, but it looks like the R5 has the mechanisms, the capability to do this.
Right,
so whether or not Canon will bring that out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on in the year, they did bring it out.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit, like this is massive.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah. But then I think about my storage and go, Jesus, I'm not sure I'm ready for any higher megapixel.
I know. And then it's like, well, when would you ever be printing out a billboard?
No, that's true too. It's more, for me, it's about some of my really, in talkies, fine artwork. If I'm doing something where I really want to be able to edit down to very fine detail.
Yeah.
For something that I might print A2 or A1.
Yeah.
That's nice to have those pixels.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the time I'm like 97% of my work only ever gets to Instagram anyway, most people's profiles, right? And you do not need that resolution on Instagram. So
I know, and my account this morning, my main account this morning got reported.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm like, shit. I have to lay off it for a little bit, which is such a
so annoying.
It's such a crock.
It's so annoying. It's just this self-perpetuating thing, though. I mean, you think that there must be an alternative, but of course, without the numbers there, you just can't make an alternative. Plenty of companies have tried it, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. So I've been a Canon shooter for since forever, but I've had Sonys and I've had Fujis. And whenever people ask me, oh, what's a good camera? And I'm like, Well, there is that saying that a good camera is the one that you've got with you.
Yep.
But ultimately, I think all cameras are the same. It just depends on your preference. And your preference purely from how you're going to use the camera, how you're going to work with the camera. And how you're going to work with the camera, I think, is important because it comes down to the menu system. And the menu system for Canons, I think, are just so easy.
Yeah.
Like Sony's are just so complicated. Like, how many times do you have to go down?
No, absolutely. And Panasonic are not much better. I went on a weekend once and used Panasonic for the whole weekend. And even by the end of the weekend, I was still like, where the hell is this? Like, why is it so hidden that you've got to... Whereas, but then I wonder, is it just familiarity? I mean, I've since 2000, I had my first Canon film camera, then moved to digital in 2006. And, once you got that digital, just the menu system and everything has been very consistent all the way through. I mean, I think once you got to the 5D, probably, or the 5D Mark II was my first 5D, and it was, it's very familiar. Like between the 5D and 2 and the 5D 4, the menu systems is very similar and easy to follow.
Yeah, and when you're, so do you shoot video?
I do very limited video. Most of my video that I do is, I do a bit of video editing, but it's not related to my photography. So this is a boring story alert, but I do a little bit of recording some family history stuff for my, like I've got video of my grandparents, for example, talking about when they grew up and putting that story together for people in the future to be able to have that information. So I edit that, but that's shot on a Canon, I don't know, whatever it is, but a proper video camera.
Hang on a minute. This is definitely not a boring story.
Let's see.
The fuck?
It could be.
Like how did you get into that?
So I just decided.
Why?
Well, I decided that there was nobody recording this information. So there was a gap coming, and I knew my grandparents were coming to the end of their age. They're all dead now. And
shout out to the grandparents.
So they have. Yeah, and then they're at the point, and you need to ask them a story, and you say, "Oh, so where did you go to school? What's some of your memories from going to school?" And then they tell these stories, and you go, "Well, I'm not going to remember that in 2 days, let alone 2 years." So
this is kind of like a time capsule.
Yeah, very much so.
Thing of like memories of like your elders.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm lucky that I got all that recorded. One of my grandmothers was not so happy to be recorded, so that I didn't get a lot with her. But my grandfather and
Get that camera away from me, Brett.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
I've got pretty much exactly that quote from her. That's pretty much the only footage I have of her. But no, it's great. It's good to have. And look, I hope that my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, will appreciate that that information is stored now.
Do you hope that that your kids will do that with you?
Look, it's probably a pretty boring story, but.
No, that's probably what your grandparents were thinking.
Well, maybe, but I mean, they went through like Second World War, and half of my grandfather's brothers went off to war, and they all came back. And
you know what the story will be. So if your grandkids ask you, you'd be like, "There was this time when there was a global pandemic."
Oh yeah, exactly. They'll go, "What?
We couldn't leave our houses." And your grandkids would be like, "What the fuck?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
You lived in a house? They're fucking living on a spaceship."
Exactly. With flying cars.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Even the other day I was thinking, did that all really happen? Like, was that all, did all that lockdown, was that all real? It's like you forget about that 200 and whatever it was, 76 days or whatever it was. That was nuts.
How did you know it was 276 days?
Well, didn't they talk about that? Weren't we the longest ever?
You did mention that you were a data guy.
Data.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man. That's so cool. Like you like recording your grandparents' stories.
Yeah, no, I need to do my parents. I need to come down a generation because they are now in their 70s. So they it's definitely something I should probably do. Yeah.
Creativity wise, like how do you what inspires you?
Andrew Felix. What was the other one you asked me to say? Sorry.
Oh, he's a fucking comedian as well. Or most of us photographers are comedians. So
It helps.
Shut
It
your
helps.
face,
It
all right?
helps. Exactly. So creativity-wise, I definitely get inspiration from other people's work. I look at their work more. Most of the time, I'm driven by. This is going to sound a bit odd, but by their lighting. So I'll look at it. I'll look at a particular shot and I go, "How is that lit? Is that daylight? Is it artificial light? And if it is artificial light, how have they lit that?" And then I'll think about, in that style, I'll think, what images could I make in that style that fit my style? Because my editing style is very very me. I don't go too far out of that. I'm working on this year is going to be definitely more about trying out some new stuff in terms of moving a little bit away from where I've been previously, but nothing crazy. I think I'll still employ my old style.
Or like how crazy are we talking, or not like?
Oh no, when I talk about like things that I've tried is this last year, 2 years, I got into projector photography. So using a projector to be the light source, and then projecting different colors, different shapes onto bodies and into the scene. So that was fun. And then mixing that with studio light, so mixing it with gelled light. So where there is a shadow created by the projector, then casting a gelled light onto that, so you get this really cool white shapes and then coloured strips, if that makes sense. So mixing the two things up, which is a bit of fun as well. So yeah, doing using different light sources and different styles of stuff. But I think this year I'm going to move a little bit more out of the studio and do a little bit more on location, both artificial light and natural light. And have a bit of a play in that space.
There's a couple of things there. It's really great to hear you say lighting is, where you've kind of like focused in on, because I think a lot of photographers and a lot of people will forget about how important lighting is, particularly I think because our eyes kind of play tricks on us. And particularly with natural light, like we can't, depending on the, I guess, healthiness of your eyes, will you be able to see the different shades of light, that's available. A camera can kind of see more because you can dial things right
Absolutely.
down, like to the minute detail. And then it's also great to hear you using different techniques, and blending two different techniques together. I think I get a lot of whenever I hit a creative block, I go back to my catalog and I have a look at things, and then I work out whether or not I would like, different aspects or different components of two different photos to kind of come together. The whole projector thing, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some projector stuff and it's like, mate.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's about the learning process, because you find, like you do your research and go, okay, so what type of projector do I need? And then you go, oh, that's expensive because you need really high res. Because the pixels that
the lumens.
Yeah, exactly. The lumens are important, but the size of the the size of the pixel, the way it's projecting that will create a very small shape on your model. So basically, you could have these really big chunks on the model that will be just slightly imperfect, and you've got to be cognizant of that as you're putting the image together. So yeah, I've learned a lot about what style, how to shoot with that style, and then it's about, okay, what if I because in the case of that example where I put the gel with the thing, that was a complete accident. I left the gel, or just completed a gel shoot, turned the projector on, took a photo, and then gone, oh shit, where the shadow should be is now filled with gel. And it was like, oh. So now I'm on this journey around, filling in the shadows with gels. So
I fucking love that.
yeah, no, it's good fun. And of course the model's looking at me going, what the hell are you excited about? But lighting's lighting.
Yeah. Did you start in studio and you've been doing more natural light?
I've always tried to mix the two things up a little bit for the reasons I spoke about earlier. And was that warning on the camera for a reason? No? Just went to text and then dropped back.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know, but cameras only have a video capability of
I learnt this from Andrew Felix.
29 minutes and 59 seconds, which is why I've got a remote attached.
Very cool.
And so the timer is for 30 minutes and 4 seconds. So it gives it time to record the file to the card, and then it'll just record again.
Nice.
That was a hard thing for me to learn.
Yeah. Well, this technical stuff is you got a lot of gear in here, that's for sure. Sorry, your question I've completely forgotten now because
Me too. Studio light.
Studio.
Sorry, did you start in studio and then move across to natural?
No, so I went the other way around.
So you did natural and then you
yeah.
kind of like you do like a bit of both.
Yes. But I have to say I've learnt a lot more about natural since having studio, if that makes sense, because you can look at a modifier and you can say, okay, I think it's going to cast this type of light, but a modifier is not a modifier. There's so many different variants to what it's going to produce, and then natural light's exactly the same. But one thing I do, which again is a little bit nerdy, is I'll look around a room and I'll look at how the light is falling, and it's also important for me because in some of my creative editing work, I need to know what a realistic shadow looks like, for example, because colors within shadows are really important. How the shadows forming, what it's going to do as it trails away, how a subject is going to interfere with that, the shadow that might be coming from a building, for example. So I enjoy looking at light and working out exactly how that is being formed, and then I try and use that to generate something in studio. But
yeah, and it's this case of really like looking at the detail and try to work out like what works and what doesn't work, and then how to recreate that in a different setting.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I love photography, because you get to really test your own senses and you get to really create something that's unique, if you blend different techniques together and then, obviously there's the piece around showing the model like a different side to themselves and them looking at the back of the camera like, oh, is that me? Like, that doesn't look like me. And I'm like, well, it ain't fucking me.
Not unless I got this thing the wrong way around, yeah.
Yeah. So...
No, it's true. And people do photograph differently. That's what I always get amazed by. When you look at a person straight on and you're looking at them going, okay, even when they're in the studio and the light's there, like you've got a modeling light on them, you take a shot and some people go, the hell? Like their face changes in camera. And there's very few people this really is very obvious with, but I think it's to do with obviously compression, depending on the lens you're using and other aspects. But some people just, when a light hits them, their skin is actually more luminous than, and I'm not just talking makeup here, I'm talking about just people's skin. So that to me is really interesting. And I've, in the last 3-4 years, I've been shooting a few darker skin models as well. And that's bloody challenging for a studio photographer who thinks they know what they're doing. To switch over to a darker skin model, that's good fun to try and work that out.
What do you find difficult about it though?
Because it's easy to overcook the skin. So you make this natural, you have this natural idea. Like if you have someone, you're shooting someone in a black dress and then you put someone in a white dress, you are going to have to dial those lights back because they're going to get a lot more luminescence coming off the clothing onto them and everything else. In the case of a darker skin model, you might be tempted to just dial the light up a bit, but actually you'll probably overcook it. You'll actually get different specular highlights on the skin itself, and you'll actually start to overexpose them. But you might not see it to the naked eye. Like it's only when you get to processing, you go, I can't do anything with that skin. You get this massive shiny spot. So you've just got to be a little bit more cognizant of that. And in natural light as well, I notice you've just got to be a bit, probably slightly underexpose it and then deal with it in Lightroom later.
Yeah, I think it's, I didn't think of that. Like the fact that a darker skin model, you'd have to really adjust so that you don't overexpose, how the texture of their skin kind of looks. But I suppose it is something that I would do like when I'm outside working with natural light anyway.
Yeah.
But I didn't think of it like that,
Yeah, no, I think you've just got to be just looking at how, particularly the highlights, any areas, like they might have put a bit of shimmer or something on, and you just need to be watching because that will make it hard from an editing perspective later. And I try and get it as close to how I want it exposed as possible in camera. So,
what do you have plans for the rest of 2024?
2024 is it's going to cost me a lot of money. So I think
Because you're buying the R5.
well, yeah,
the
I am
Mark II.
Yeah, maybe if that doesn't come, maybe I'm just going to bite the bullet and buy the one for now.
Fucking lenses are the most expensive.
Yeah, but I mean, look, good glass is good glass, right? So at the end of the
100%.
day, I mean,
You can buy a RF to EF adapter.
yeah, I've thought about that,
Which is what I did originally
Yeah.
because I had all the EF lenses and then gradually over time. Yeah.
yeah, I'm still wondering about what that transition looks like for me. But the last few weeks, my workhorse 24-70 has been giving me some trouble and connection issues. So it's all to do with, well, supposedly, every YouTube that I've looked at, it's all about those connections not being clean, and I've cleaned them a lot, and on occasion, it's still saying it doesn't have a connection between the lens and the body, which is annoying the hell out of me because 24-70 is my real workhorse in the studio. So
yeah, 100%.
So I'm just, but Canon, you haven't yet. My solution would be just to go and make the transition, but if Canon, you haven't released that, which they're saying maybe is the second half of 24.
And I don't know if you know, but this year for RF mount lenses with Canon, their 7-year agreement is up.
Yeah, that's right. So we're waiting to see what Sigma or whoever else jump in on.
Lenses,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's at the end of this month.
Wow. Okay.
So we're going to see like third-party RF mount lenses, which is just an absolute game changer from
absolutely.
from a cost perspective.
Yeah. No, I shoot with the Sigma 1.4 85 art lens for my natural light stuff because I love that lens for that, particularly for shallow depth of field. But it is, I mean, it's heavy, but it is a beautiful piece of glass for that type of work. So
yeah, and the glass, the when someone asks me about what camera to buy, I'm always like, yeah, you can buy whatever body, but spend more money on the glass.
Yeah.
Because the glass is the one that's going to make the quality of your photos better. Don't buy a $5,000 body and stick a $200 lens on it.
No,
I'm
do
like,
not.
whoa, like, what are you doing?
you're just wasting your money.
Yeah, you'd rather it be the other way around or at least maybe half and half.
No, exactly. So, so to answer your original question, there is that purchase. There is also, I'm doing a workshop in April, which is now all booked in, locked away on studio lighting. And so I'm going to do probably 3 of them this year.
Yeah, that's cool.
If I can make the time for it. So I've had a few people bugging me for a while. I did some pre-COVID and they were quite successful. Just 2 models, probably 6 people. The studio's not that big.
Small and intimate.
Yeah. And it's more about, just helping people understand. Like we're talking very beginner people in terms of studio lighting, just learning that skill.
Yeah.
And just working with the model. So just teaching people, how to respect the model, how to find them, and those sorts of things. And then there's a couple of projects I'm doing, what would you call them? Off-site shoots, so still studio, but I've hired a venue which is going to be sort of quite themed, so I've got a couple of models coming along that I've booked for that. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Should be good fun, but it's my first time taking studio gear out into the wild and shooting, so to speak. But
what do you mean? What do you mean the first time?
Well, I've done shots where I'm going to a location in natural light, but never to drag all the studio gear with me. I mean, I've taken
how much studio gear are you taking?
Well, no, it
like
would
a
be,
backdrop and like fucking power transformers.
No, there's fortunately there's mains power there, so I'll be just plugged in. But it'll only be probably two big light modifiers, a couple of big soft boxes. But
yeah, okay.
But it's just
that doesn't sound so bad.
No, I'm just exaggerating it for effect. But no, look, it'll be great. I'm really looking forward to shooting that, and
yeah, it'd be great to see the output of some of these projects.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm also reflecting yesterday on my shoot, and I think I need to spend more time building the team a little bit. Like there's shoot yesterday, I reckon would have been much more next level had I had a hair artist there as well to get hair as well. And sometimes it's clothing, but those projects where I think when I look back and go, that output is really good is usually when there's a full team there. But that's expensive to arrange.
It's expensive, and I find again, like some people don't appreciate the level of project management that is required in syncing up people's fucking schedules.
Exactly.
I'm like, bro, like I'm all good for people like canceling on me and like whatever, because guess what? It frees up my time so I can do other shit. But I'm like, in the lead up to stuff, like if you're trying to schedule like 3 or 4 people, the same thing, and like there's just no, what's the word, commitment. I'm like, how am I supposed to fucking do what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it's pretty challenging. And the client that I'm shooting this afternoon, when we've been communicating, should sort of said, I want to do it like earlier. And I said, because my first availability was, I can't remember what I said, March something.
Yeah.
It's like, no, but I want to do it earlier than that. Can we do it on Sunday? And I was like, I said, okay, well, like I've got a podcast in the morning and then I'll do it after that. And she's like, okay. And then so I sent a note last night just saying, are we still on?
Yeah.
She's come back, no, we're talking next Sunday, aren't we? And I'm going, no, we're talking this Sunday. So anyway, that was cross wires, but it's the sort of thing where it can completely stuff you up because I'm going, no, next weekend's booked solid. There's no way it's happening next weekend.
Yeah.
So it flows on from there. Yeah.
And look, I totally get it. Like people are busy and all of this. My MO has always been like, I'll give people like 2, maybe 3 chances because I get it,
I'm on 1, so I'm a Scorpio. So
you're a Scorpio.
Yeah.
I'm a Sagittarius.
Right. Yeah. No, the tail's coming in quickly. If you've screwed me round, it's on.
Yeah. Right. Watch out, people. Scorpio, bro,
exactly.
is on a rampage.
Yeah. I can't handle that. Yeah.
I think I get that as well.
When you get to 3, come on, man, you're being too generous with your time.
Yeah. When it's 3, I'm very loose with my responses or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I'll fit you in, like my level of prioritization has dropped really low and like other people are, taking priority first.
Yeah.
If only like one of those people like cancelled, then I'll go down to that level. But yeah, I've learned across the years that like don't take things too personally if shit doesn't go on. Like I always, when I first started, I was always like, all right, how do I kind of like get this like train moving in terms of like really getting commitment, like spending some time developing my shoot agreements, the inspiration boards, like all this type of stuff. And then whenever people didn't show up, I was like, what? Like, just really, really take it quite personally. And then I got into this frame of mind. It was like, nah, have no expectations. Don't have any expectations until I can see the person.
Yep.
And then, that lasted a couple of years. And then probably in the last, 4 years, I've just been like, I don't have time to fucking have any emotions. I'm like, nah, like, you know what? As I said before, if you cancel on me, that's fine. I got other stuff to do.
Yeah, sure.
Like editing videos or editing photos or replying back to messages that have been sitting unread for a while, like, come on, mate.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it is about finding that balance between committing yourself to too much, like you're talking about, versus just being balanced. And that's where you have to balance the 9 to 5 sometimes as well.
Yeah. I do video, and I have been looking at getting a dedicated video camera. So I have been looking at the Sony FX3, primarily because the movie The Creator was shot on it completely.
Yep.
But I've also been looking at the 5RC.
Okay, yeah.
because it's Netflix approved. Not that I'm coming out with a Netflix movie, but and then I'm like, why go and buy something completely different? Why don't I just buy a second R5? Or like if the R5 Mark II comes out, like, because it's an absolute beast. Like I've taken over 500,000 photos in 2.5 years on that thing.
Wow.
You know, and like God knows how many videos. So my idol photographer, my fanboy photographer that I follow, he's got an R5, and on YouTube he's got a clip of him customizing all of his buttons.
Okay,
so,
what's his name?
Joaquin Carlson.
Okay.
So he's married to the Julia.
Oh, yeah, right.
The redhead.
Yep.
Yeah. And they live in Bali, and he like travels the world taking photos of her wherever she is and runs workshops.
What a job.
His fucking work is amazing. Like these European photographers, they got their fucking shit going down. Anyway, so I was like, oh, well, he's got an R5. I'm going to buy an R5 and I'm going to customize all my buttons like him, because he goes through and he explains why. Because like all the buttons have like the little printed icons, you know, to show you, to give you the information on what button it is. But he kind of customizes it in a particular way that kind of makes sense to his shooting style, so that, you know, like, because sometimes you may like take a shot and then like the way that you're holding in camera like might bump something and then it changes it, and then you go to take another shot and it's like completely changed, but you won't know until you get it back to
absolutely
the computer, right?
Yeah.
And so he goes through and he explains why he does things like that. So I'm like, that's fucking genius.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. So I'm basically shooting with his camera.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I've bumped shutter speed a few times. It happens to me in studio, just where the way I've got the D5D4 set up is that, occasionally you'll drop it down to like 100th of a second, then you get these shots back and you go, why is this bloody blurry? And you go, oh, because you've accidentally dropped. So anyway, I've learnt to lock it out now. But same thing, you're customizing it to give you the way you shoot. So, yeah.
And I know Sony, you can customize buttons in Sony's as well, I think, because I was telling someone about being able to customize it, and they shoot with Sony. And they were like, oh, we've been able to do that for a while. So it's kind of like, oh, well, okay, you know.
Yeah.
But like, much of a muchness.
No, I like Canon just for skin tones. I mean, skin tones for me in Canon look, I mean, as I said, I've shot some images on Sony. I've shot some on Panasonic. I haven't shot a Nikon, I don't think. But just looking at skin tones, I just like the way they look out of camera. Now, people will say, well, how are you bringing them out of camera? Like what format are you recording them in and all of that? And when you get them to Lightroom, you're going to balance them anyway. But I just like the fact that when I get them in Lightroom straight away, I know that I like that look. So I'm already part of the way there. I'm not color grading my own raw images just to get them to what I want them to look like.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's where, I think from what I understand, I haven't used Capture One, but from what I understand, that can be a bit finicky too around that. But so that's why that process just works for me.
So Lightroom and Photoshop is predominantly what you use?
Yeah, I do. In studio, I'm almost 100% of the time taking an image to Photoshop after being in Lightroom, because I'm quite often adjusting. Like I do quite a bit of what I would call creative photography, where I'm compositing things in. So I'm adding things in the background.
That's cool.
And that's so that means I'm definitely in Photoshop. I'm not doing that in Lightroom, obviously. But I mean, Lightroom now, particularly with some of the smarts around masking and when you can adjust hair or face, skin or clothing or whatever individually, that's pretty impressive.
I'm pretty sure you can do composite editing in Lightroom.
Yeah, there is a way of doing it, but it's super complicated, I think.
Shout out to Jordan. I know you do that, buddy.
Wow, there you go. But I think for what I'm doing, I'm talking about taking someone I've shot on a white background and putting them into a building that's completely not there. Like it's full on compositing.
Do you use generative
No,
Fill?
no. I mean, I generally feel I might use if I need to, but I generally try and get it right in camera. Sometimes I will have, put them offside a bit and I just want to extend the backdrop just a bit to give me a bit of extra. So I'll use that. I think it's okay. I think content aware fill is actually still, for that type of work, is still pretty good too. Generative fill is good when you've got particularly a landscape or something, you've got this mountain range that you want to extend. That's where I think it's quite clever in terms of making it look realistic.
And what's your opinion on AI and the use of AI?
I was reading an article this morning about this German photographer, the guy who won the was it the Sony Awards with the AI generated image, and he basically went up there to accept it and then said, "I'm not accepting it. I just wanted to prove a point that you guys don't know what you're looking at, like that it's not that it's not real." And I didn't take this.
They got punked.
Exactly.
Sony got punked.
Exactly. And I think it's fantastic. But he just wanted to draw attention to the fact you can create these award-winning images. And just recently there was
you should all switch to Canon. I'm joking. I'm joking.
He's also sponsored by Canon. Is this sponsored by Canon?
It's definitely not sponsored
Could
by
be
Canon.
sponsored by
if
Canon.
Canon or Nike or Playboy or Rode ever want to sponsor, please, like inbox me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slide into those DMs, please.
You will get prioritized very quickly. Forget about those unread ones. He'll be up the top.
If you don't reply, you'll drop down.
So yeah, let's start a petition.
So this article, it's the Sony Awards.
So I think for me, the thing, it has its place. So there's a brand new competition coming out at the moment, which is allowing AI generated images. But I think he called it, this German guy called it, what did he call it? Promptology or a word like that. And basically saying it's how good are you at putting prompts into AI to tell it to generate something.
Yeah.
And there are several photographers that I follow because I like their work. And I know that it's all AI, but I like whatever prompts they're using are very clever to give an image to me that's pleasing. But I know that it's AI, and I appreciate that they say that it's AI. So they're saying, hashtag Midjourney or whatever, and I know that it is. I think it's when you start to blur the lines about hiding whether it's real or not, and taking credit for something that, the only thing for me is that it has this little bit of allowance for me is the fact that the image, you're not stealing other photographers' images. It's what the system has generated. So you're not actually stealing someone's face and putting it there. It's actually what the computer is saying. I'm going to create that face. So for me, I'm less averse to it from that perspective. But I for my work, I won't even use, if I'm compositing, I won't use a background that I haven't shot myself. So I won't go and buy a stock image and put that in the background. I will not generate an image.
Yeah, right.
That's just the personal sort of rules that I go by.
I think it's a little bit like when Google came out and we were doing Google searches, and I would come across people that were always like, "Oh, I can't seem to find this thing. How do I find it?" And I'm like, "Well, you got to use the right words in Google." And then I would do it for them, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Right?
Yeah.
And gradually over time, like the metadata or the keyword searches on either web pages or like information that you're looking for got better and better and better because business owners or people with that content got better about, uploading stuff.
Yeah.
I think the AI stuff is exactly the same. Like, yes, there's probably some machine learning behind it. So for every search, that search goes into the bank, for whatever were to come up later on.
Yep.
But this piece around how well you are at crafting a prompt will determine the quality of what comes out.
Absolutely.
And it's only, I'm amazed at how or where this is going to take us. In the future, and like what are the possibilities?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's going to be. I think, as you said, it's going to be. Those prompts now become. It's becoming more intuitive as to what those prompts need to be to generate what it thinks, and I think we will get to a point where your particular style like it's not just about the style, the prompts you're putting in probably, but it will start to learn the type of images that you like. So if you've got a bit of a bent for something that's a little bit darker, I'm sure it'll start to learn you don't want something that looks happy and sunny. You're looking for something that's got this dark undertone. So rather than the prompt being, darkness, evil, whatever, you probably won't even need to put that because it'll just learn what type of image that you're trying to produce. So
it's like when I started sharing a couple of days ago Batman and Catwoman images, that fucking shit's all over my algo now. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, it's like, because usually it's like lingerie women or cats, but now it's lingerie women, cats, and Batman.
Oh. Well, Batman, you just got to work out how to get it higher in the feed. So.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. So, like AI, I think I'm still waiting for like Skynet to get launched this year.
Yeah, it is this year, 2024.
Yeah, and John Connor, wherever you are, we need you to come out, buddy.
It does make you wonder, does it? I mean, I love it when a movie sort of starts to happen in real life, but it is funny that because people are then very quickly conscious of, oh, hang on, what happened? That was bad in that movie. I can't remember everything that happened, but I remember it was bad. So
that was real bad. Some fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger character comes back.
Yeah. So they got to perfect time travel though. That's going to be the key, right? We need to get that happening.
Yeah. I mean, but do we now or do they later?
Well,
to then come back now.
Yeah, I think there's still questions about whether that's even possible. So, yeah.
Do you find that when you like watch movies and stuff, you get like inspiration creatively?
Oh,
from
definitely.
them?
So I went and watched, which is not correctly named, The Dry 2 last night.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
with Banner.
Yeah, exactly. Who had some very clunky acting in there, by the way. Anyway. And the reason we went to see it was The Dry One, the first one. My dad was actually an extra in the film, so that's why. So that's there's a linkage.
That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah, he was named. He was named, as in someone said to him, "Hey, Wall, pull that down," and that's his name. And he was also in the credits. So yeah, he didn't speak, but he was named. Someone talked of him in the film.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what was it about Dry 2?
It was about just the atmosphere. I just thought to myself, I would love to go and shoot some of those locations and get out. But then I read, there was an article on a few weeks ago, I read this. The crew, to get into some of those locations, they had to wear wetsuits because the leeches are horrendous.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah. And one guy had a leech on his in his eyeball, like went up underneath the eyelid, which is not cool.
Yeah, that's not cool.
No. So I would not like to be imagine getting into a wetsuit just to go to work. That'd be not much fun at all.
I mean, that's what commercial divers do.
Yeah, that's true.
But
no leeches down there.
no-
Big sharks, but no leeches.
Yeah, no leeches, just big sharks.
No, the only one shoot I did out in the Dandenongs with a model, and we got attacked by leeches. The bastards. They are on every fern, every blade of grass.
Fuck did you do that?
Why did I?
Why?
It was about the location. So we went out there, and then I'm in the car, and I'm going, I can feel it. Like you're taking off your jumper, you're taking off your pants, you're trying to, it's not good when you have to, when you're not sure, you're going, I reckon there's still one here somewhere. Like I was literally in the shower going, is there any more on me? Yeah. Bastards.
That's kind of cringy.
That's not good. And when they get big enough and fat enough, they fall off. But I don't want them to get to that point.
No, because how much blood have they sucked?
Yeah, they're ugly little things too.
Yeah. What? What? So you've spoken about projects that you've done this year, doing location shoots. Like, how do you go about getting models to like agree to doing some of the stuff that you've done?
It's got to be a shared vision, I think, in terms of, unless I'm 100% paying up front. Like if it's a collaboration, then it's got to be a shared vision because they won't be 100% on board. So if it's that type of work, if it's paid, then I'm looking for someone who has that skill set that I'm looking for particularly, or I've seen other work where they've done that type of work before.
Yeah.
I'm not requesting people to go beyond, what they're comfortable with, but more about, and I would never put them in danger in terms of, putting them in a shoot location that I wouldn't be comfortable being in myself. But I think it's about I've got some people now I've worked with multiple times, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And for me, that's where I get the best work because we just jump into a comfortable zone together.
And it's a different working relationship.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's more organic and it's more fluid.
Yeah,
And yeah.
and they are more comfortable making a suggestion too, which I think is great. Like they go
Mm.
because sometimes I'll be in a block and go, I'm not sure what angle or what area, and then they'll go, oh, what if we did this? And you go, oh,
I'm sure that's not often.
no, no, you'd be surprised.
I've seen your work. I'm sure it's not often.
No, yeah, it happens. Yesterday it happened where I was just like, and then the model said, what about this? And I go, no, that's exactly what we should do. And I'm very happy to have those suggestions. And I'm very much a fan of two things. One, I'm a fan of let's try, and if it doesn't work, we just delete it.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I always try and put one experimental idea into every shoot that I do.
Yeah. I'm the same. Like I love when someone comes with ideas. Not so many ideas, so that they're taking over everything. But I love it when they're like, "Oh, what would you be open to trying something like this?" And if it's something that I haven't done before, or something that I have done before, and I think that they would be like they could create the right form, you know, with their body or whatnot, then yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, no, I had that a couple of weeks ago. And the model said, "Oh, I think I can do these bends. Do you know, do you have the skill basically to shoot this in type this silhouette style?" And I was like, yeah, we can do that. Absolutely. That was easy. But the hard part was for her was being able to get into those things. But she sent me then images from her phone that she'd taken to show me that she can, well, not that she could do the move, but the fact that this is what it looks like. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So yeah, when you get that level of engagement, it's good.
Yeah, and I think also that is something that's telling is that whenever someone sees an inspiration photo on like either Instagram or Pinterest or whatever, sometimes these complex images, you have to actually work up to them.
Yeah.
You can't like jump straight into that level of flexibility or that level of stretching without kind of like easing up into it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I find that it's definitely overlooked.
Yeah, I've got to stretch a lot before a shoot. But I'm joking. I don't stretch before a shoot. But
Are you into yoga?
No, I've never done yoga, truth be told. I don't even stretch before I run, which is it's bad at my age, but I don't do it. So
But you're a spring chicken.
no, I'm no spring chicken.
No. How often are you running?
I'm cycling 3 times a week and running 3 or 4 times a week cycling, and then probably running every other day, like as in 3 days a week running. So I might get 1 day of rest where I don't do anything.
Right. How far are you running?
Running is only about 5 or 6 Ks. I'm riding about
more than me. No, thank you.
I'm riding about 120 Ks a week total. So
what?
Yeah.
What are you running away or riding away from?
Yeah, well, the riding
the demons in your head.
Well, that's probably accurate in terms of the running. I'm trying to get back into. Sorry, the riding. I 2 years ago had a fairly major cycling accident.
Oh fuck!
So I'm trying
what
to
happened?
get. I was doing a 140-kilometer ride down from Torquay, and at about 136-kilometer mark, so 4 Ks to finish, I fell off and broke my collarbone in 2 places, broke 4 ribs in 2 places each at the front, 4 ribs on the back, and punctured a lung. So that was fun. So getting back into cycling was more of a mental thing to say, I'm not going to let this...
I like how you turn that negative into a positive by saying that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, look,
I'm sure it wasn't fun at the time.
No, a week in Geelong Hospital, 2 days in intensive care. And I remember asking the nurse who was at the foot of my bed, like watching everything happen, like full-time monitoring of my heart rate and breathing. And I said, what am I doing in intensive care? And she goes, we just want to make sure you keep breathing. And I'm going, okay, fair enough. Let's do that then.
At any point during your recovery in hospital, did you ask someone, am I going to be able to take photos ever again?
No, but I did take off 6 months where the collarbone, for me, the ribs were the one that I was most probably not worried about, but sort of thought, oh, that's bad that I've got. So now I've got 39 pieces of metal that I never had before. And
hang on a minute.
Go for it. This is when you've got a glitch and you go suddenly move across and you go, what the hell's happened there?
Yeah, exactly. And I get AI to do my editing.
I remember one of the podcasts you talking about this.
Yeah, it's fucking.
I've been trying to keep up with all of your, like I thought I better listen to some of the back catalogue, and then I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm trying to, like I thought, okay, I've caught up now, and then all of a sudden there's like another 7. I'm going, what the hell? How is this guy, what is he doing?
Yeah, I can't sit still. And so in my consulting, I consult in like process improvement, business improvement.
Yep.
And so I'm always trying to find like ways to streamline workflows,
Absolutely,
and stuff like that. And so when I came across researching on how to do a podcast, one of the biggest things was the fucking editing, particularly with the 2-camera setup.
Yeah.
2-camera, 3-camera, whatever, right? And so I signed up to use an AI extension in Adobe Premiere Pro. First month was free, and then I'm paying like $30 a month.
Yep.
But like
saving you hours of time.
Hours.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, so the AI only works if this module records the audio in 2 separate files.
Sure.
The first podcast I did, I didn't really read the instructions.
Yeah, no, I'm not the instruction reader either. So.
And so I had to manually do that, and then I realized, oh shit, there's a setting thing that I had to change. And then I think like podcast number 18 or 19, there was a firmware upgrade for this.
Right.
And the firmware upgrade reset all the settings. So then I had to fucking edit that
manually.
And that shit took me 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I believe you.
But then the next podcast, I obviously had put the settings right, and that one took me 32 seconds.
So there's your $30 a month helping out. Yeah.
And I'm like, mate, like it's just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's great.
But it's nuts from a time saving point of view, plus the fact that speed of production, like I can record, edit, upload all within a day.
You must be able to, because otherwise, how do you get 7 a week or whatever the hell you're doing at the moment? So
yeah, well, that was like 2-3 weeks ago. My goal was to only do one podcast a week.
Yep.
For 2024.
Still a lot. Yep.
Yeah. 3 weeks ago, I did 6, and I was like, this shit's get fucking, but I love talking to people, and I've met so many interesting characters and like learned so much. And I've said it a number of times on the podcast. This is me kind of like putting a spotlight on you guys and talking about you and talking about your work and things like that.
You learn so much about other people and how they approach something, or just even their stories is quite interesting sometimes.
Yeah, and it certainly helps with being able to get the reps in around dealing with like communication and dealing with talking to different people about different aspects of their life. And and I'm absolutely certain that you would have experienced this, but as a photographer, I certainly feel like sometimes you're a life coach, sometimes you're a nutritionist, sometimes you're a personal trainer, a psychologist, like all of this type of stuff, because we're asking people to be vulnerable, and when they're vulnerable, all this stuff comes out, and you have to learn how to like communicate with it, manage it, try to get the best shot, and yeah, like all of that's really hard. And how do you do that without getting the reps in?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It is absolutely about the reps. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. It is interesting. Like people will say to me, "Oh, how do you get to work with so many amazing people?" And I'm like, just fucking look at my work schedule. Like this work schedule did not create itself. Like you have to build up to it.
Yeah.
And I've got a mate that always reminds me, like, people seem to forget like how many years and how many hours of work that you've done to get to where you are. They just think that this comes like naturally.
Yeah.
And I'm like, doesn't it? And he's like, no. Like he goes, you make it look easy, but that's just your personality, you know. And you know, I think if you can make something look easy, then people like take that for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when they say, you know, 100,000 images, 100,000 frames is what you need to, you know, to master a particular area or to master a camera, you know, to learn, you know, to know how to use it without looking at any of the buttons like you were talking about before. So yeah, you've got 500 on that one, so you're 5 times over. So
yeah, and God knows how many on that one.
Yeah.
So I had before the 5D Mark IV, I had a 70.
Yep.
And before the 70, I had a Rebel equivalent. And then before that, I had a RX 100. And then before that, I had like a Panasonic. And before that, I had like a Fuji.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, mate, that's 11 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of cameras in 11 years.
Actually, no, sorry. The 11 years has predominantly probably been, I started with the Rebel. So like going back further was like when I was with the Sony and the Fuji.
So you've been on that Canon journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just easy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Maybe that should be the tagline you tell Canon you're going to use. It's just easy.
Promote me, please. Come on. Promote him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely take on some free gear.
It's you know, you see all this stuff like on TikTok. I don't know if you're on TikTok.
I'm not.
Yeah.
That's one of the only forms of social media I'm not on.
Why?
That is a good question. I think my kids probably would ban me if I probably tried to get across there. No, I have struggled enough keeping up with it, just putting stuff on Instagram.
I'm not asking you to do like one of those stupid dances.
Are you not? Okay.
No.
Well, then I'm in there.
No,
convince me.
No, like let's see some photos or some how tos.
All right, maybe that's a 24 thing.
Some lighting like techniques.
I'll commit to assessing it. Let's say that.
That's good. Certainly, because I find if you put like instructional stuff on there, it's this paradigm between gatekeeping and sharing information, right? Like I certainly feel like you do need to gatekeep a little bit, but if you share information, people are lazy. They actually don't. They watch to analyze what you're doing, but they ain't gonna fucking do it.
No, I was only thinking about this yesterday. Actually, that's so true. Like people are lazy. People are lazy. I think about my own laziness in terms of if I really wanted to go next level with my work, I would be starting a project board. Right. I mean, I have Pinterest boards and everything else, but I would be starting way back early, building it up, getting a team on board, paying everybody, and generating this product. My only question is, what am I producing this product for? If it's just for me, like if I'm not, it's not going to be saleable. I'm producing a personal project, which is going to cost me a fortune, but maybe that's how I improve beyond where I'm currently at. So the question for me is, are you willing to give it a crack? And yeah, because I've got this 9 to 5, which is nothing related to photography, I can afford to go and do that. So I probably should just challenge myself. And my motto is, you're a long time dead. So you might as well do it while you're here.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And look, maybe lazy is not the right word. I think people are comfortable. They're comfortable to like watch other people do the work.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily, they're not going to go out there and do it. What I find is they will come to you.
Yep. Yeah.
Because they want that done.
Yeah.
It's not that they will, replicate what you've done. If you show them how complicated it is or show them your expertise, then it's kind of like, oh wow, like that. It's kind of that saying like, your tribe will find you.
Yeah.
But how do they find you if you don't put your shit out?
No, that's 100% for sure. I think that what drives me is about self-improvement and producing a good product versus trying to, just in my personal circumstance, trying to find extra demand for my services. Because for me, I've got a finite amount of time and I'm just trying to get to that level where I'm very happy with the work that I'm producing. And if I don't, for me, it is really about just my feedback. And people may approach me and say, I want to learn how to do what you do, which is fine. And that's what those workshops are about. But I don't find myself driven by trying to generate demand, which that's a bit of a, I was only talking about this last night with my wife about what would it take to become a professional photographer, like to switch your life around completely. Now, this is not on my list of things to do. But when I get to retirement, I will actually use all my skills that I built up over that time to do more work in that space.
But then you're not retired.
No, but I think you need a passion, otherwise you're on the way out the door. So,
that's exactly right. There's that saying, right? Like if you are working to retire, then you're probably going to die.
Yep.
But if you finish a career and you take on something else that is a hobby, like in that retirement age bracket, then you're probably just going to just keep living on.
No, exactly. So true.
So what do you do 9 to 5?
So I manage a business that's in the chemical industry.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so nothing to do with creative at all, actually. And we are managing the life cycle.
You are the real life fucking Walter White. I can see you in a fucking hazmat suit.
I love that. Love that show.
I'm kidding.
No. But I can no. So yeah, because I studied science, obviously in chemistry, and then anyway, so we manage the life cycle of refrigerants.
Right.
So refrigerants are stuff that's in your split system here or your car air conditioner.
Yeah.
These are synthetic greenhouse gases. So these are bad things. So they need to be managed and it's heavily regulated. And so yeah, we recycle these products and put them back out into the market.
How the fuck did you get into that?
Well, I've always worked with chemical companies or for chemical companies, and I've been through a variety of management roles, and this was just about a commercial role that I was tapped on the shoulder to go and do, and I've been doing that for 6 and 7 years. Yeah.
Right. So you've got a team of people that work with you.
Yep.
Or work for you.
Yep.
And is it like extremely dangerous?
No, refrigerants are pretty benign. They're bad for the environment. They're synthetic, global warming agents.
Yeah.
Some of the older ones are ozone depleters. So the ozone layer problem that was created by by the CFCs.
So how do you recycle those?
It's pretty simple. It's simple in terms of the chemistry or the physics of it. It's just distillation. So it's like distilling alcohol or anything like that. They'll boil at fairly low under pressure conditions.
Yeah.
They'll just boil and you separate them. So but they're heavily regulated, and we need them to keep our beer cold, keep our food cold, keep our medicines cold.
Yeah.
But they are products that you do not want accidentally getting into the environment. So
yeah, we need like a super scientist data guy to take care of all of that
yeah,
shit.
and take photos of them as well. Yeah, not really, not taking photos of refrigerants.
I mean, have you ever done product photography?
Yes. Where have I? I've dabbled with it for friends who have some stuff, and they said, "Oh, you've got a camera, you must be able to." But of course, product photography is very specialized, and you really need to know what you're doing.
Specialized.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a guy that I know who does that type of work, and even just getting
okay, Walter White, just calm down. I got a guy who does that type of work.
Exactly. And just getting a nice light effect on a wine bottle, for example, it's super challenging, right? It's not so simple. You want symmetry, and it's got to look believable. And where does the shadow go? And all that jazz.
When I started my photography journey 11 years ago, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I tried jewelry. Fuck me, that's some hard shit.
Yeah, no,
Jewelry is so hard.
Yeah,
lighting and angles and
trying to make it look good.
And then I've still got a car portfolio, and I'm trying to kick that off again.
Yeah,
this year, but I just found like model photography to be like more suited to my personality. You know, interacting with adults. I did take photos of my kids, and I did do other people's family portraits, but I was like, I'm not dealing with other people's kids.
No, I have along the way shot a few family shots, and the number of times I get someone coming back saying, "Oh, can you swap their eyes for the eyes in this shot?" And it's just like, oh. Man, if the eyes are going to be closed, or this skin tone, even if their skin tone was, on the day, I think it was the father, he had quite flushed skin. And they're going, "Oh, can you do something about that redness?" And I'm going, "No." When he should have, like, if there's some problem with,
he should have not gone for a
run
30K run.
Exactly. Please
before
don't do
his
that.
photo shoot.
Yeah, maybe I need a
with
list.
Brett Ferguson photography.
Exactly. So that's not my genre either. I do like dealing with people. As we were talking before, again and again, and if I shoot multiple times with that person, the stuff we get every time is just improving every time.
And that's what really drives you, right? Like, if you can see an improvement and you get to build on that connection, like it's just so rewarding.
Yeah, and the excitement in the model as well. Like if they're excited by what they're seeing through that evolution, then that's pretty exciting as well for me. If you can see them, the glint in their eye and go, "Oh, yeah, this is really cool what we're getting." So,
other than pushing yourself creatively, what type of like training or like how do you improve yourself?
I try and do one form of education a year. So I try to schedule myself to say, and I do encourage other people to do the same thing, go out and find what you want to learn and then just lock in on that. This year I don't really have a plan. But over the past I
know a guy who's running some workshops.
That's right. Reach out. Yeah. So it's about, for me, it's about deciding exactly what I want to learn. Now, for me, sometimes that education is trying something completely different, like this location shoot that I'm talking about. It's going to be challenging, right? And there's logistics around that. You've got to make sure everyone's getting there on time. We're going to, we have multiple people going there, food, like all that sort of stuff. How are we going to manage all this? So that's an education in itself. So, but in the past, I've done lighting workshops. I have done online stuff. I've still got a few subscriptions going where I'm, watching a particular Photoshop guy, for example, and just keeping my techniques up to date in terms of these new things that come out, and you go, "Oh, I didn't even know that." Lightroom but certainly Photoshop, that it could do that. And I mean, look, there's a lot online too, but I just find I learn better if I stay with one particular teacher and just follow that process through. So
I find the online stuff, I'll only search for something or try to learn something new if I feel like it can add to my repertoire of like techniques. And then I find like there's a couple of traveling models that when they're in town, I like pay for their services because they're traveling, they get to work with so many other international photographers, and then I get to like learn off them.
Sure.
And I find that that's always really, really good for me. Everyone's got to like work out what their own learning style is and what works for them and things like that. So that's definitely what I do. And the stuff that's online like YouTube, it's just endless.
Yeah, no, it just keeps going. But I think your idea is right, is you just got to choose a few things like that, like choosing a professional model who's worked with a lot of other photographers, and they go, "Oh, I've seen this, and or I know that this works and that doesn't, or whatever." So you can add that to your repertoire, so to speak. So,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Amazing. So how can people find you, Brett?
So find me. Instagram is the place that I do most update, which is Brett Ferguson Photography. I probably should have come up with something more interesting back when I first chose that, but it tells people who I am.
BFP.
Well, that's in my symbol. My symbol is BFP, but and I do have a website as well, brettferguson.com.au. So, but it doesn't get updated as much as it should. It was there as the sort of when I was still trying to work out what I'm going to take. And I also wanted to show people that I was serious. So I thought having a website helped with that. I'm not sure that people spend a lot of time there. I think people look at my Instagram work, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Here in Australia, Instagram's really big. I think overseas websites and,
yeah,
and
I get
other platforms.
I get a lot of the, looking at the data, a lot of the hits that I get are from the US for whatever reason. I mean, it's a big population, probably, as part of the story, but US and Europe is probably predominantly where people are coming from. So
yeah, exactly. I'll have the little pop-up thing come up. So.
Excellent. Yeah, you got to point it up here, or
no, I'll do
it down there. Yeah. Okay. I always laugh when people do that and it's in the wrong spot, and you go, "Why the hell why put that over there then if you know it's over there?"
Like in editing, you know where to put it.
Exactly.
Like if you're pointing there, you put it there.
You put it there.
If you put,
I don't get it why people do that. They just get lazy and they go, "Oh, I'll just put it up there."
I think they're not doing their own editing.
Oh.
They've gotten someone else to do it.
Okay. So when are you doing that? When are you getting someone else to do it apart from AI? So.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've had so many retouchers try to hit me up with like doing editing and things like that. And I'm like, I just can't do that.
No. But I learned last night that a new thing, maybe it's not so new, but talking about TikTok, that these people now, professional TikTokers going to weddings. So they're, you got a photographer, you got a videographer, but you've also got a professional TikToker who's actually uploading BTS stuff and their own images as well into TikTok for the bride and groom. And I'm going, what the hell? That's a job. So you never know.
Yeah. So I went to a wedding many, many moons ago, and actually this was like before I started my photography journey, and I was amazed at the level of production that was created from the videography team. So they had and it really didn't come together till you sat down at the reception and they showed this video.
Yeah.
So it was an afternoon wedding, and there was like a ceremony at a church, and then you literally go to the reception like straight after, right?
Yeah.
But the video team and the photography team had like documented like the bride and groom's morning, and real time were like editing.
Yeah.
For this grand reveal video at the reception.
Yeah.
Right? And we're talking like Hollywood blockbuster fucking production.
Wow.
And we were all just like sitting there going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like how much money
Lots
would you have had to pay? Because there were like, I think it was a team of like 7 people.
Yeah, it's a big team.
There were 3 people on laptops editing, and I was just like, "Wow,
Yeah, no, it's full on.
it's just absolutely mental."
Yeah, but I guess if you got the money for it, go for it. Why not?
If you
Because
got
people go, this is amazing. Now we're getting to see what we didn't see from the morning, and everyone's happy because it's all about the day, right? Because the next day everyone's forgotten about it. They're all hungover and moving on.
Have you ever done weddings?
One, I did one for 2 actually. I did one on film. So that's brave.
One was curiosity, and then the second one was validating the decision of not doing.
Yeah, I think that's true. So one I did on film when I was 16, 17 years old, and I grew up in a very small country town, and they'd said, "Oh,
Albury Wodonga."
No, God, that's big town. What are you talking about? That's a city, I think." And so they said, "Oh, there's a local photographer." I'm going, "I'm not a local photographer." So they're like, "Oh, can you take our wedding photos?" So I took the wedding photos, and it was a Greek wedding, and I was completely out of my depth, but I got some shots, and they were very happy with those shots.
That's good.
And then I shot for my cousin's wedding. One of those things where they didn't want to spend money on a photographer, so they got me instead. And
that was it. That was with the digital camera.
It was digital, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that was pretty stressful day, and I was absolutely cooked by 8 o'clock. I'd had enough. I was, I'd had about 2 beers and then went to sleep. But yeah, it was good. It was good fun. And we produced some great images. I was actually around at their place recently and saw some of their images framed on the wall. So, that's nice when you see your image up there.
That's so rewarding.
No, it is. Right? And it's like, it's even like Instagram. I reckon I could probably name 10 profiles where my image is their cover image. And that's always nice. That shows to me their respect for the image that we created. And it shows that, I've nailed my job as well. If I've got them saying that's of all of the images I have of myself, that's the one that I'm going to use.
So are you saying that you wouldn't do weddings again?
Oh, hell no. I don't have a weekend available to just doing that stuff. No, shit. No, God, no. I mean,
it's way too stressful.
Yeah, but I always love the challenge, right? I love a challenge. If someone said to me, you can't do that, I'll go, no, I can. I could probably do it. But I have no desire, and that was the conversation we were having last night about, I wonder how much wedding photographers actually make. Like, how much after-tax money are you making? And I don't know. It depends on the photographer, right? But at the end of the day,
I think it's a lot.
Yeah, for the high-end guys, I get it. They're earning a lot of money. But I reckon where I am, you'd be middle of the road, you'd be working hard for your cash.
Yeah. I've always stayed away from weddings because I just don't want the extra stress.
Yep.
The pressure of it's their big day.
Yeah.
The pressure of you only get one chance. They ain't gonna do this again.
No.
No.
I shot a 21st back when I was about 18 or something, and that was all on film, and the flash, I don't know, something went wrong with the flash and it overcooked all the images. Like, it was at night. I didn't really have any choice but to shoot flash.
Yeah.
But it cooked all the images, and it was just, everything was completely useless. So I had to apologize, and it was the school principal's son that I was taking the photographs of, so it was pretty awkward. Yeah. Anyway, I still graduated, so it's okay.
By the skin of your teeth.
Exactly. Who knows?
Well, Brett, thanks for coming along for the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me, and great pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for listening in. Make sure you subscribe. That subscribe button's going to be there, and the notification bell. And I'll catch you guys all on the next one. See ya.